Adidas and Puma. We're talking about two of the most iconic, globally recognized sports brands to ever exist. You see them everywhere, on the feet of world-class athletes, on supermodels, and in every street-style outfit imaginable. But here's the thing that really gets you. Both of these titans were born in the exact same tiny, sleepy German town of Herzogenaurach. And let me tell you, this isn't just some standard business success story. No, this is a gripping, high-octane drama packed with deep-seated betrayal, calculated sabotage, and a sibling rivalry so intense that it feels like something straight out of a classic Shakespearean tragedy. Adolf and Rudolf Dassler were brothers who grew up under the same roof, shared the same humble meals, and poured their sweat into the same cramped, damp laundry room. Yet, through a series of unfortunate events and mounting resentment, they ended up hating each other so much that they dedicated their entire lives to obliterating one another. It was a lifelong game of chess with the highest possible stakes. This feud was so toxic that it split their hometown right down the middle. Half the town were die-hard Adidas fans, and the other half wouldn't be caught dead in anything but Puma. From their questionable ties with the Nazi regime to building two global empires out of pure, unadulterated spite, this is a story that's hard to wrap your head around. It is the story of how an entire town lived in the shadow of a family's war. Let's rewind to the late 1890s. Rudy was born in 1898, and Addie followed 2 years later. They were raised in a very poor household in a town famous for shoemaking, and life was a constant, grueling struggle. Their father worked in a local factory, but the wages were so low they barely covered the basics. So, their mother, an incredibly hard-working, resilient woman, opened a laundry business right in their home to keep the family afloat. Every single afternoon, young Rudy and Addie would be out on the streets, hauling heavy, soaking wet baskets of laundry across the cobblestone roads of their town. That's how they earned the nickname the Laundry Boys. Then came World War I. It was a brutal, world-altering time. Both brothers were drafted, and when they finally staggered back home, they found the German economy in absolute ruins and their mother's laundry business totally wiped out. But Addie, he was the dreamer. He had this crazy vision of creating specialized, high-performance shoes for athletes. They turned that small, dusty laundry shed into a makeshift workshop. And the crazy part is, there was no electricity to be found. Addie was a complete genius. He rigged a leather-cutting mechanism to a bicycle wheel and made a friend pedal it just to get the machine running. They would scour nearby, desolate battlefields for scraps, leather from old military helmets, cords from broken parachutes, canvas from abandoned tents, to build their first pairs. In 1924, they launched the Dassler Brothers Sports Shoe Factory. Back then, they were a perfect match. Addie was the perfectionist who lived for design, and Rudy was the charismatic, smooth-talking salesman who could sell anything to anyone. They seemed unstoppable, but nobody could have predicted that this partnership was a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. As the business gained momentum, Rudy was like a whirlwind, getting their shoes into every single sports club in Germany. Addie kept refining the craft, obsessed with weight and traction, while Rudy took care of the fame. But when Hitler rose to power in the 1930s, the entire world shifted. Both brothers joined the Nazi Party. Some historians argue it was a forced survival tactic, a way to keep their factory open, but others suggest they were true believers in the regime's ideology. Rudy was loud about his political views, and Addie was heavily involved in the Hitler Youth activities. Then came the 1936 Berlin Olympics. This was the first televised Olympics, and the brothers knew this was the make-or-break moment. You won't believe this, but in direct defiance of Hitler's Aryan superiority propaganda, they managed to get the legendary black athlete Jesse Owens to wear their shoes. When Owens stepped onto that track and walked away with 4 gold medals, the Dassler brand became world-famous overnight. It was the ultimate marketing coup. But behind the scenes, the pressure was tearing them apart. Success is a hard thing to share, and the brothers were beginning to see each other not as partners, but as bitter rivals. The fame and the money only served to highlight their different personalities. One was a manufacturer, the other was a promoter, and neither wanted to play second fiddle. The stress eventually curdled into constant, bitter arguing. When World War II hit, their factory was forced to pivot to producing Nazi boots and tank parts. And then came the infamous shelter incident, the absolute turning point. One night, while Allied bombs were screaming down on their town, Adi and his wife ducked into a bomb shelter, only to find Rudy and his wife already there. Adi muttered, "The bastards are back again," referring to the Allied planes. But Rudy was absolutely convinced Adi was calling him and his wife the bastards. That was it. The bridge wasn't just burned, it was vaporized. Rudy was sent to the front lines, and Adi stayed back to run the factory. Rudy grew paranoid, convinced that Adi was trying to cut him out of the business forever. After the war, during the denazification process, Rudy ended up in an Allied POW camp and became 100% sugar that Adi had tipped the authorities off. Later, when Adi was on trial, Rudy even testified against his own brother. Can you imagine the level of spite required for that? To make it worse, there were nasty rumors about Rudy and Adi's wife that never quite went away. By 1948, the break was final. They split the company assets. Adidas and Puma were born, and they became lifelong, bitter enemies. It was no longer about shoes. It was about destroying the other's reputation and soul. Adi chose Adidas, and Rudy went with Puma. And just like that, the town became a literal battlefield. There was a river slicing through the middle, Adidas on one side, Puma on the other. It was absolute madness. Even the school kids were segregated by their parents' employer. The town actually earned the nickname the town of bent necks. You want to know why? Because people would constantly look down at your feet before deciding if they wanted to speak to you. If you were wearing the wrong brand, you were effectively a ghost. Even the town mayor was forced to wear one Adidas shoe and one Puma shoe to try and keep some semblance of peace. Adi added those signature 3 stripes to make his shoes pop, and the rivalry became a way of life, a deep-rooted cultural divide. Imagine living in a world where your shoelaces determined your friends, your dinner parties, and your social standing. Let's talk about the 1954 World Cup final. Germany was facing Hungary, and everyone thought the Germans were doomed. Rudy pulled every string he had to get the team to wear Puma, but Adi won the contract during the match. It started pouring rain, and Adi's secret weapon, those screw-in studs, changed the game entirely. The Germans won, and it was hailed as the miracle of Bern. Adi was an instant national hero, and Rudy was left absolutely devastated. But honestly, this toxic rivalry is exactly why both brands became global giants. They pushed each other to reach new heights every single day just to spite the other. Even their sons, Horst and Armin, kept the fire burning for the next generation. They wouldn't even step in the same room. Chapter 6. The Pelé Pact, the ultimate betrayal by the 60s and 70s. These companies were burning through absolute fortunes on sponsorships. The sons actually made a secret deal. Let's stop fighting over Pelé. We are both going bankrupt. But, and this is a classic move, Puma secretly signed Pelé behind Adidas's back anyway. Before the World Cup final, Pelé asked the ref to wait so he could tie his shoelaces. All the world's cameras zoomed in on his Pumas. It was the greatest marketing stunt in history, and Adidas was blindsided. These men were in their 70s by then, and they still couldn't say a kind word to each other. When Rudy was on his deathbed, Adi refused to see him. And get this, when they finally passed away, they were buried at the opposite ends of the same graveyard. They couldn't even stand to share the same patch of dirt in the afterlife. Eventually, the founders were gone, and their sons really struggled to hold it all together. They nearly went bankrupt, and the companies were eventually sold to private investors. Meanwhile, Nike swooped in and took over the world while these two were busy fighting each other. But in the 90s, new leadership breathed life back into both brands. In 2009, they finally held a symbolic peace match in their hometown to put the madness to rest. Today, both Adidas and Puma are thriving global giants, headquartered on opposite sides of that same river. It makes you wonder, if they had just swallowed their pride and sat down to talk, could they have built the ultimate unbeatable sports empire together? We will never know. It's wild how much greatness was fueled by such intense, burning hatred, isn't it? Subscribe to the channel for more stories like this.